The Clone Wars raged across the galaxy, a conflict manipulated at every turn by Darth Sidious to serve his ultimate ambition: the downfall of the Jedi and the rise of his Sith Empire. Yet, in this alternate timeline, an unforeseen force threatened to unravel his plans. The Sun, the living embodiment of the dark side, broke free from Mortis during Anakin Skywalker's fateful encounter with the enigmatic realm. Unbound and driven by an insatiable hunger for power, the Sun set his sights on the galaxy, disrupting the fragile balance between light and dark. The moment the Sun escaped Mortis, the Force itself shuddered. Jedi and Sith alike felt the shockwave ripple through their connection to the mystical energy field. On Coruscant, Yoda paused mid-meditation, his ancient eyes widening as he sensed the darkness unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. On Mustafar, Count Dooku, deep in his machinations with the Separatists, found his own connection to the Force momentarily overwhelmed. Even Sidious, master of deceit and manipulation, froze as the void-like presence of the Sun filled his senses. The Sun wasted no time making his presence known. Emerging on the desolate outer rim world of Moraband, the ancient homeworld of the Sith, he tapped into the long-dormant nexus of dark power that saturated the planet. Sith spirits, restless echoes of the past, writhed in agony as the Sun absorbed their energies, growing stronger with each passing moment. His form, both corporeal and otherworldly, became a manifestation of the dark side itself, a beacon of power that called to the most ambitious and desperate beings across the galaxy. Sidious, calculating as ever, quickly realized the threat the Sun posed to his plans. This being was not a rival Sith seeking to claim the mantle of Dark Lord, but something far more dangerous. A force of nature that cared nothing for the intricacies of galactic politics or the Sith rule of two. The Sun's desire was chaos, pure, unbridled domination over all creation. For Sidious, whose strength lay in manipulation and long-term schemes, the Sun represented an unpredictable variable that could shatter the delicate structure he had built. In the midst of the Clone Wars, the Sun's arrival became an ominous wildcard. As the Republic and the Separatists waged war, the Sun sowed discord across both factions. He appeared first to Count Dooku, the former Jedi turned Sith apprentice, who had grown increasingly disillusioned with his master's secrecy. The Sun, understanding Dooku's pride and ambition, offered him something Sidious never could: a chance to become part of something eternal, a vessel for the dark side itself. Dooku, wary but intrigued, hesitated. The Sun demonstrated his power by annihilating an entire Separatist fleet with a wave of his hand, the Force bending to his will like a storm obeying its master. Dooku, despite his arrogance, realized that the Sun's strength was beyond anything he or Sidious could hope to match. Yet the Sith Lord's inherent caution prevailed, and he rejected the offer, reporting the encounter to Sidious. Meanwhile, the Jedi Council grew increasingly troubled by the reports of mass destruction and dark disturbances emanating from the Outer Rim. Mace Windu, ever pragmatic, argued for a swift and decisive intervention, while Yoda expressed hesitation, sensing the overwhelming darkness that awaited them. Anakin Skywalker, plagued by dreams of chaos and death, pushed for action, his impatience and recklessness growing with each passing day. He felt a strange connection to the Sun, as if their fates were somehow intertwined. Sidious, recognizing an opportunity in the chaos, orchestrated a confrontation. He manipulated events to lure the Sun into a trap, using the Clone Wars as a smokescreen for his true intentions. On the war-torn planet of Malachor, a nexus of dark energy and ancient Sith history, Sidious arranged for a confrontation between himself, the Jedi, and the Sun. His goal was not to destroy the Sun but to manipulate him, to harness his power and redirect it toward his own ends. When the fateful encounter occurred, it was nothing short of cataclysmic. Jedi, Sith, and clones clashed amid the darkened ruins of Malachor, their battle dwarfed by the sheer presence of the Sun. Anakin, driven by his growing anger and confusion, confronted the Sun directly. Their meeting was electric, the chosen one standing before the living embodiment of the dark side. The Sun, recognizing Anakin's latent potential, sought to sway him with visions of power and freedom. offering him a path beyond the constraints of the Jedi Order and the manipulation of Sidious. Sidious, watching from the shadows, saw his plans unraveling. The son's interest in Anakin threatened to disrupt everything he had worked for. He intervened, unleashing his full Sith power to confront the son directly. What followed was a battle unlike any other, a clash between the galaxy's most cunning manipulator and the embodiment of the chaos he sought to control. Sidious, despite his mastery of Sith sorcery and manipulation, found himself outmatched. The son, ancient and primal, shrugged off Sidious's attacks, taunting the Dark Lord with his own insignificance. Yet Sidious was not so easily defeated. His genius lay not in raw strength but in his ability to adapt and manipulate. He played upon the son's arrogance, baiting him into overextending his power. Meanwhile, Anakin, torn between the Jedi, Sidious, and the son, found himself at the center of a storm he could barely comprehend. The Force itself seemed to spiral out of control, the balance tipping ever closer to darkness. In the end, the confrontation left no clear victor. The son, though wounded by Sidious's cunning and the combined efforts of the Jedi and clones, retreated into the depths of the galaxy, vowing to return. Sidious, though shaken, managed to spin the chaos to his advantage, using the destruction on Malachor to further destabilize the Republic and tighten his grip on power. Anakin, deeply scarred by the encounter, found himself more conflicted than ever, his path to the dark side accelerated by the son's temptations and Sidious's manipulations. The Clone Wars continued, but the galaxy was forever changed. The son's presence lingered, a shadow over all. For Sidious, the challenge of the son was both a setback and a grim reminder that even the most meticulous plans could be threatened by forces beyond comprehension. Yet he remained resolute, determined to bend even the primal darkness of the son to his will, no matter the cost. The galaxy, already fractured by the Clone Wars, descended further into chaos as the influence of the son grew. Though temporarily forced into retreat after the confrontation on Malachor, he was far from defeated. His presence was now a looming specter across the galaxy, his ambitions unbound and his power rivaling the most dangerous forces in existence. The son began to work his dark influence subtly, planting seeds of corruption and fear in the hearts of those most vulnerable to his manipulations. He focused his efforts on the Outer Rim, preying upon war-torn worlds and populations who had grown disillusioned with both the Republic and the Separatists. Entire planetary systems fell under his sway, their inhabitants enthralled by promises of liberation from the endless war. The son's ability to project visions of despair and hope tailored to the desires of his victims made him an unstoppable force. He became not just a figure of destruction but a symbol of salvation for those desperate enough to follow him. Meanwhile, Sidious seethed in the shadows. The son's presence was an affront to everything he stood for: control, order, and absolute domination of the galaxy. To Sidious, the son was chaos incarnate, a force too wild and unpredictable to be tolerated. Yet he also saw an opportunity. If he could turn the son's immense power to his own designs, Sidious's reign would be unchallengeable. The Sith Lord began to craft a new plan, one that would exploit the son's weaknesses while further ensnaring Anakin Skywalker in his web. Anakin, for his part, was deeply shaken by his encounter with the son. The visions the son had shown him of unrestrained power, freedom from the Jedi's strictures, and the ability to save those he loved, gnawed at his mind. The Jedi Order's inability to provide clarity or comfort in the aftermath of Malachor only deepened his turmoil. Obi-Wan Kenobi, ever loyal, tried to guide his apprentice, but even he could sense the growing darkness within Anakin. Yoda, meanwhile, warned the Council that the son's continued existence posed a threat to the Force itself, urging swift action to counter this ancient evil. Despite the Jedi's concerns, they were stretched thin by the demands of the Clone Wars. With the Republic's armies locked in battle against the Separatists, resources and manpower were scarce. Sidious took full advantage of this, ensuring that the Jedi were constantly occupied, unable to divert their attention fully to the son. He knew that if he played his cards right, the Jedi would inadvertently weaken themselves while he worked to claim the sun's power. The sun, however, was no mere pawn. While Sidious schemed and the Jedi debated, the sun began assembling his own following. He drew upon dark side cults and rogue Sith loyalists who had long operated in the shadows, offering them power and purpose under his banner. These followers, empowered by the sun's raw energy, became an army of fanatics, striking at both Republic and Separatist forces with devastating efficiency. Planets that resisted his influence were razed, their destruction serving as a grim warning to others. One of the sun's most significant victories came on the planet Dathomir, home to the Night Sisters and a powerful nexus of dark side energy. The sun's arrival on Dathomir was met with both reverence and fear. The Night Sisters, led by Mother Talzin, initially sought to bargain with him, recognizing his unparalleled connection to the dark side. Yet the sun had no interest in alliances. He consumed the dark energies of the planet, bending the Night Sisters to his will and turning Dathomir into a stronghold of his growing empire. As the sun's power grew, so too did his reach within the Force. His influence began to spread beyond the physical realm, infiltrating the dreams and visions of Force sensitives across the galaxy. Jedi and Sith alike experienced nightmares of a galaxy consumed by shadow, of stars extinguished and entire civilizations wiped out. Even Sidious found himself plagued by visions of the sun standing over the ruins of Coruscant, his empire reduced to ash. This was the turning point. Sidious, recognizing the existential threat posed by the sun, resolved to confront him directly. But he knew he could not do so alone. Manipulating Anakin once again, Sidious convinced the young Jedi that the sun was the true source of the galaxy's suffering, a darkness that even the Jedi Council was powerless to stop. He framed the sun as a greater evil that only Anakin could destroy, subtly feeding the Chosen One's growing sense of destiny and self-importance. Anakin, desperate to prove himself and end the war, agreed to Sidious's plan. Alongside Obi-Wan and a contingent of elite Jedi, Anakin embarked on a dangerous mission to confront the sun on Dathomir. Sidious, of course, had no intention of letting the Jedi claim victory. He dispatched his own agents, including Count Dooku and General Grievous, to ensure the Jedi's failure and to position himself as the ultimate benefactor of whatever power remained after the battle. The confrontation on Dathomir was catastrophic. The Jedi and Sith forces clashed amidst the planet's crimson forests and dark, swirling mists, their battle overshadowed by the sun's overwhelming presence. Anakin, driven by anger and desperation, faced the sun once more. The ancient being taunted him, drawing out his insecurities and fears, showing him visions of Padme's death and the fall of the Jedi Order. The sun's words struck deep, further eroding Anakin's resolve and pushing him closer to the dark side. Obi-Wan, ever the steadfast guardian, fought valiantly to keep Anakin from succumbing to the sun's temptations. But even he could see the cracks forming in his former apprentice's will. Meanwhile, Sidious and Dooku observed from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. For Sidious, this was the culmination of his grand design: to destroy the Jedi, eliminate the sun, and claim Anakin as his apprentice in one masterstroke. As the battle reached its climax, the Force itself seemed to scream in agony. The sun, wounded but unyielding, unleashed a torrent of dark energy that tore through the battlefield, obliterating both Jedi and Sith alike. Anakin, consumed by rage and grief, tapped into the depths of his own power, unleashing a ferocity that rivaled even the sun's. Their clash was a titanic struggle of light and dark, destiny and chaos. In the end, it was Sidious who tipped the scales. Exploiting the sun's momentary distraction, the Sith Lord unleashed a forbidden Sith ritual that drained the sun's power, forcing the ancient being into a weakened state. But the act came at a cost. The ritual destabilized the dark side energies of Dathomir, threatening to destroy the planet entirely. As the ground cracked and the skies burned, Anakin faced a choice. He could strike down the sun, cementing his place as the galaxy's savior, or he could save his friends and escape the collapsing world. In that moment, the sun whispered to him, promising him the power to save Padme and end the war if only he embraced the darkness fully. Anakin hesitated. The galaxy's fate hung in the balance.